So I was invited to spend a couple of days in Orlando, Florida, to attend both the AIBD conference and the IBD Social Circle Summit with a bunch of other IBD advocates. Now, just a quick disclosure before I continue here. Janssen had paid for my travel expenses to attend this IBD Social Circle Summit, but just letting you guys know that all the thoughts, opinions, and everything that I've had about the event are completely my own. So for those who aren't aware, the AIBD conference, which basically stands for the Advances in Inflammatory Bowel Disease, is a place where healthcare professionals go to discuss the latest research, best practices for treating patients with IBD. And, some of the most well-known gastroenterologists come to this event and really offers a great opportunity for other gastro docs to brush up on some of their knowledge. Now, me, along with over a dozen other IBD advocates, were invited to come to this event not only to learn more about the latest science, but also to connect with each other and to discuss how to become better advocates for both ourselves and other patients. So it starts off on Thursday, December the 8th, 2016. My flight was leaving at 7:30 in the morning, so I needed to get up well ahead of time to make the hour-long drive to the airport with enough time to spare for the airport security. Now, I decided to fly with strictly carry-on only, and this is what I've done on previous trips. And along with my carry-on luggage, I also ended up picking up a new backpack that would really help me along the way to bring extra things and to just be more portable when I was going around. Now, I hailed an Uber like at 3:30 in the morning to pick me up. And the driver came in this Mercedes-Benz that he had like completely pimped out to look like a nightclub. So there was like LED lighting, there was like dance music going on. Needless to say, this is one of the best Uber rides I've ever taken. So I got to Toronto International Airport and, the whole place was pretty empty. I got through the airport security without any troubles at all. Nobody asked about my ostomy. There was no issues at all with that. Now, the flight was pretty smooth, quite enjoyable. Like with other flights, I picked a window seat, and I was able to see some very beautiful sights once we got past the clouds, north of North Carolina, that is. So after landing at Orlando International Airport, I took a taxi to the Walt Disney Dolphin Resort, and this is the resort that I would be staying at. The hotel there is just absolutely beautiful, and we actually gathered around this big white Christmas tree that we called the tree to chat and meet up and stuff like that before going to different sessions. Now, I was one of the first people to make it there at the hotel, but I was later met by Stephanie Hughes of the Stolen Colon. Now, I've known Stephanie for years because of her advocacy work, and I consider her to be one of my ostomy heroes. So it was actually really, really cool to have a chance to meet her in person. We ended up grabbing lunch at one of the restaurants there in the hotel, and I ordered this absolutely epic salad. It was one of those build your own salad type things. And, while we were eating, we chatted and waited around for some of the other people to join us. Now, it took me forever to check into my room. There was some kind of delay or something going on. But, once I was able to make it there, I was able to wait, attend some of the other IBD sessions that were going on, and then I finally got my room. Now, during these sessions, they were always packed. And, keep in mind that these were all gastroenterologists and other healthcare professionals. So it was really cool to see that. But, the speakers who presented, they did a wonderful job in explaining the science, but they were also explaining it at a level that even I could understand. So, I'm not a doctor, but I could still get what they were trying to present. So that was really nice to see. So after many hours, finally getting my room, I ended up settling in, and, then a group of us went out basically to this Thai restaurant for dinner. Now, the food there was great. They had vegan options, so that wasn't any issue at all. And that actually became something that wouldn't really be the case in other restaurants that I had visited throughout the week. So I'll talk more about that later on. Now, with the exception of Sarah Ringer and Dan Sharp, both I had met at an event in Ann Arbor earlier in the year. This was the first time meeting the other advocates at the table. And, these are all people that I've known for years through their online advocacy work. And it was like really, really fun to joke around and, have a good time together. So we ended up going to a karaoke bar after dinner, but not before seeing some of the beauty that Disney and the resort had to offer. So Friday was a day filled with, a lot of education and group sessions. I was able to meet the rest of the advocates, and we shared ideas and asked a lot of questions. In between the IBD Social Circle meetings, we had a lot of time to visit the AIBD exhibit hall to speak with the exhibitors there and also to read the latest research abstracts. Now, there were literally hundreds of abstracts covering all sort of topics related to IBD and the treatment that follows. Now, a particular session that was both really entertaining and educational was one that Dr. Higgins had co-presented. Now, it was a case study of a young lady who had ulcerative colitis, or I should say who has ulcerative colitis, and it was presented in a style that was very similar to one of those choose your own adventure books, where you get multiple choice questions and then you would have to decide where to take it from there. So, the audience was presented with these questions at various stages throughout this lady's history, and it was really interesting actually to see what people were picking and what other doctors would say when it came time to treating this lady. Now, this case study, it had everything you can imagine in it. It had drama, it had suspense, there was a sex scandal in there, there was some tragedy, joy, and as a patient sitting in the room, I found it just fascinating to see all the different opinions that the various doctors in the room had about treating this patient. So the case study also revealed, the importance of patient education. So, there were themes of noncompliance and refusal to take recommended treatments and the unwillingness to have surgery. And these were all things that, a little bit of education could have helped to avoid. So there were many lessons learned in this one. Now, one of the highlights of that day was the panel discussion that we had with three well-distinguished IBD specialists, Dr. Edward Loftus, Dr. Peter Higgins, and Dr. Tausif Ali. Now, during the sessions, we were split up into groups, and we had a chance to speak with each of the doctors individually. A lot of questions came up, and many answers were given by these amazing doctors. I really love and appreciate the fact that these doctors are so active and willing to share their idea with patient advocates. We ended up spending the evening by the tree and planned for another busy day to come the next morning. December 10th, 2016. The first half of the day was spent attending more research sessions. One of the sessions that I planned to attend was titled, "Is there an optimal approach to prevent recurrence of post-operative Crohn's disease?" And the talk was given by Dr. Miguel Reguero. Sorry if I butchered that name. Now, I took particular notice in this presentation because it was helping patients who were in exactly the same situation that I was in. After a few more sessions and lunch, a bunch of us decided to record a few videos on topics that have been requested. Now, having known Megan, the Front Butt YouTuber, for years, but never actually having met her in person, the opportunity to do any kind of video with her was so exciting. Now, I can't wait to share what we recorded that day, and it does touch upon several topics that we've been requested multiple times. Now, the latter part of the day was spent with the rest of the IBD Social Circle for a patient empowerment workshop. Dr. Tiffany Taft of Oak Park Behavioral Medicine is a psychologist who specializes in helping patients who have chronic digestive illnesses. And she gave a presentation as we discussed patient empowerment, challenges of dealing with burnout, and also compassion fatigue. We got really involved in the conversation, and we shared our own stories and experiences throughout. An IBD social circle planning session was next, and that was followed by dinner. For dinner, we went to a place called the Copper Canyon Grill. Now, these guys really didn't make it easy for a vegan to eat, and literally everything on the menu had animal ingredients in it. And butter was added to just about everything as well. Now, fortunately, the chef was apparently vegan, so, he was able to produce a nice pasta dish that was actually really good. Now, because many of us would be leaving the next morning, we spent many hours conversing near the tree. And, it was really bittersweet. Saying goodbye to these amazing people, it really is never easy. But the fun wasn't over, and Sunday would bring more excitement to my trip. Sunday, December 11th, 2016. Man, this was a day to remember. Dan Sharp, Sarah Ringer, Megan, and myself all took a trip to Universal Studios there in Orlando. Now, it was my first time there, and I was thoroughly impressed. We all got attraction assistant passes, and this allows us to get on rides without having to stand in long lineups. Now, for anyone, with an ostomy or a J-pouch or, IBD, it is definitely worth checking with your local park to see if they have anything similar. Now, the process to get this pass is pretty easy, and, we were able to get on pretty much every ride we wanted to without waiting more than 10 minutes or so. Now, Universal Studios has some big rides and many just absolutely mind-blowing 4D rides. If you've never been on a 4D ride, you have no idea what you're missing. Everything from King Kong ride to Spider-Man was just absolutely mind-blowing. And, you really become part of the movie in those rides. Even stuff like water, real fire, all that jazz, that's all included in the rides, and it really helps with the immersion. So we went on several of the coasters, including a large Hulk ride. And, none of the rides pose a problem for my ostomy. And, I'll have a full video on the experience at a later time. For dinner, we decided to grab an Uber, who basically almost dropped us off in the middle of nowhere. And we decided to actually go to a vegan restaurant called Ethos. Now, there were so many options to choose from at this place, and the prices were actually very reasonable. So, we were in heaven by this point. Dan, Sarah, and I headed off to our new hotel room before calling it a night, and we actually had Disney World planned the next day. Monday, December 12th, 2016. The day started off pretty early as Dan, Sarah, and I went to Disney World. Our Uber driver, who was a little more competent than the one we had the night before, still managed to get us lost looking for the guest drop-off. Now, after spending several minutes walking across the large Disney parking lot, we were finally at the gates. To the ferry, that is. I had no idea what to expect, but Disney is huge. It's actually made up of many separate parks, but the first one that we decided to visit was the Magic Kingdom. We took a short ferry ride before making it to the security gates. Now, like all parks, your bags are checked before you proceed to the actual entrance. Now, after we were cleared, we searched for guest services in order to get our ride accessibility passes. The process is fairly quick, and I'll have a full video on that. But, I was surprised that they needed a photo of us too. And this was in addition to the fingerprint scan that they took during the ticket processing. But we were finally in. Now, Disney is absolutely crazy busy. It took us quite a while to get around, and that was even with the use of their Disney app, which helps us to navigate the park. But we did eventually find a few rides that we wanted to try out. Now, like Universal Studios, the Ride Access Pass gets you into the express lane of a ride, so you don't have to wait very long. Now, unfortunately, Disney also gives you a time to come back before you get on the ride. So you have to wait a little bit of time, then you have to wait in line in the express lane. And because it's so busy there, many times we were waiting an hour or more just to get on a single ride. Now, because of this, we weren't really able to enjoy many of the rides, but we did manage to get on quite a few more at Hollywood Studio Disney Park. Now, Hollywood Studio Park is a very different park from the Magic Kingdom, and adults would probably have quite a bit more fun at this park. It was still really busy, and because of all the walking and standing that we had done, Sarah needed to use a wheelchair to get her through the rest of the visit. You know, unfortunately, this is a reality of having IBD, and even for myself, before my ostomy, when my inflammation was still pretty high, you know, I suffered from joint pains on a daily basis, and that really restricted me as far as the things that I could do. Now, I really feel for Sarah and, you know, other people who still have these ongoing symptoms. Now, we left Disney in order to grab dinner, and we went back to that same vegan restaurant, and, you know, there was quite a bit more food and more laughs to be had. I ordered a salad with some mock chicken strips, as well as a shepherd's pie, which they call a sheep's pie. Everything was so delicious there. Even the stuff that Dan and Sarah ordered just looked so mouth-watering. Tuesday, December 13th, 2016. This would be my last day in Orlando, but we were going to make it count. Megan joined Sarah, Dan, and I, and we headed off to Bill Frederick Park to shoot some more video. I love spending the day with these guys, and I honestly wish it would never end. The park we picked was beautiful, and the weather was hot and sunny, in stark contrast of what it was like back in Toronto. Now, we live streamed a few videos to Sarah's Facebook page, which is Unflamed and Untamed, and we also recorded a few videos on topics that we plan to publish later on. Now, I had to be at the airport for 4:30 that afternoon, so we grabbed a bite to eat and spent some more time talking. Now, this was such an amazing trip. You know, I could have spent months in the company of these amazing advocates. You know, if you're a patient who feels alone or abandoned, you know that you have a group of people who are just like you, trying to really work hard and educate and empower others. So don't feel alone. Now, I want to thank Jansen really for making this entire trip possible, as well as the doctors who helped to, you know, who really dedicated their lives to helping patients who have IBD, and as well as all the other advocates who inspire and motivate me to do more for others every single day. You know, I really thank you all from the bottom of my heart, and I really can't wait to see you guys next time.